Why does 2026 feel scarier and what's changing? First, breathe. By the end of this video, you'll know what Form 8821 does, what really triggers audits and notices in 2026, and a simple compliance fortress that reduces your risk. Form 8821 is not a crystal ball. It will not whisper, "You're getting audited next Tuesday." It's a flashlight, not a prophecy. A lot of people think if my accountant has 8821 on file, they'll see an audit coming. No. Form 8821 lets someone inspect and receive IRS tax info for specific tax types and periods. It does not give them representation rights, and it does not predict selection. At Numeratus.us, we use 8821s the right way: visibility, transcripts, account cleanup. And then we build what protects you: clean books, documentation, and audit-ready systems. 2026 is a matching and automation era. The IRS uses computer scoring like DIF and UIDIF and information matching when W-2s and 1099s don't align. And now digital asset reporting is ramping up for 2025 transactions. Brokers report 1099 DA proceeds without basis. That's mismatch fuel if you're not organized. By the end of this video, you'll know what Form 8821 does, what really triggers audits and notices in 2026, and a simple compliance fortress that reduces your risk. Stay till the end, because the last part is how you stop audit anxiety from ruining your life. So let's talk about the crystal ball and why it's a myth, but why it won't die. Some people and businesses treat Form 8821 like it's a magical device that lets your accountant look into the IRS mainframe and see your future. Like, yes, I'm reading the tea leaves here, and the IRS agent is bald and angry, and he's on his way. No. Form 8821 is a tax information authorization. It allows the person you name to inspect and receive your confidential tax information for the specific tax types and periods you list. That's it. That is not a crystal ball. That is access, read-only access to the IRS. And if you're sitting there thinking, but if they can see my data, surely they can see if I'm getting audited. No, because that's not how selection works. So let's talk about what Form 8821 does and what it doesn't do in plain English. 8821 lets your designee inspect and receive IRS information for the tax matters and periods you specify. Practically, transcripts, account status, notices, visibility into what the IRS has on file. What 8821 does not do, it does not authorize someone to represent you before the IRS. It does not authorize someone to negotiate, argue, attend conferences as your representative. That's Form 2848. It does not provide audit prediction. There's no IRS menu item called Future Audits next 30 days. If you want representation, the IRS literally says use Form 2848. If you only want info access, that's Form 8821. So how do audits and notices happen? Here's the part most people miss. The IRS selects returns through multiple methods, including computer scoring of systems like DIF and UIDIF, followed by human screening on high-scoring returns. Information matching, when payers report W-2s and 1099s and they don't match what is on your return. Random selection and computer screening based on statistical norms. Related examinations. You're connected to another taxpayer and entity under exam. So if you're hunting for a crystal ball, here's the punchline. The IRS doesn't need your permission to score you. They already do. Why does 2026 feel scarier and what's changing? First, breathe. Selection for audit does not automatically mean wrongdoing. The IRS explicitly says that being selected doesn't necessarily suggest there's a problem. But yes, 2026 anxiety is real because automation and third-party reporting is tightening. The IRS is leaning into high-end enforcement, and they say so. The IRS has stated it will focus enforcement resources on high income, high wealth, complex partnerships, and large corporations, and also stated it has no plans to increase audit rates for households making under $400,000. So the fear isn't everyone is getting audited. The fear is more sophisticated matching, more targeted selection, where the dollars are bigger. CP2000 notices, the robot notice era is very real. The IRS automated underreporter system compares third-party data against what you filed. If there's a discrepancy, CP2000 can be generated, and the IRS explains it as a proposal, not a bill, but you still have to respond. So if you're thinking, I'll just ignore mismatches, Just know the IRS has a machine whose entire job is to disagree with you politely in writing. Digital assets on the 1099-DA adds visibility and mismatches. For 2025 transactions, brokers file Form 1099-DA reporting gross proceeds, and basis is not required for 2025. That means if you don't have your own basis records and reconciliation, mismatch risk increases because proceeds without basis looks like 100% gain to a machine. Let's talk about the 2026 trigger list. What increases this risk? Let's keep this factual and useful. These are the systems-based triggers the IRS itself describes. Information return mismatches. So those are differences on your W-2 and your 1099 amounts, and they don't match the system. Notice pathway is likely a CP2000. Computer scoring outliers via the DIF and UIDIF. So the return deviates from norms of similar returns. This requires review and audit selection. And then there's random selection and statistical screenings. These are rare, but they do exist. Related examinations, partners, investments, entities tied to audited cases. Digital asset proceeds reporting. 1099-DA proceeds in 2025, basis often missing. Increases mismatch exposure if your reporting isn't reconciled. Notice what's not on the list. Did you file Form 8821? Because 8821 has nothing to do with your selection. It's disclosure access. So what does protect you in 2026? Here's the real protection plan. It's simple, very boring, but effective. Protection step 1, match what the IRS already has. Before you file, reconcile your return to third-party forms like the W-2 and the 1099, because the IRS matching engine compares them. Protection step number 2, keep records that survive scrutiny. Audits are a review of your books and records to verify what you've reported is correct. So the winning strategy is be provable. Protection step 3, for crypto, do not confuse proceeds with profit. 1099-DA for 2025 reports proceeds and doesn't include basis. You still need proper gain loss computation in your records. Protection step 4, use 8821 for visibility, not superstition. 8821 helps you pull transcripts and verify what the IRS shows for specific periods. That's powerful as a diagnostic tool. Protection step number 5, know when you need 2848. If an audit starts, the IRS notifies you by mail. Representation is a separate authorization. And here's the truth. Form 8821 is not a crystal ball. It is not a gimmick. It won't predict an audit. It's like giving your accountant a library card to your IRS file. Helpful, not prophetic. If you want real protection in 2026, it's not good feelings and vibes. It's not hoping. It's not, I'm sure the IRS will understand. It's clean records, reconciliation against third-party reporting, and a system that doesn't fall apart when the IRS asks, cool story, prove it. At Numeratus.us, we use Form 8821 the right way for visibility and transcript level truth. But we don't sell you crystal balls. We build the compliance fortress. Clean books, clean reporting, crypto reconciliation, documentation, and systems that hold up. Because the best way to predict an audit is to stop giving the IRS a reason to look closer. If you have this type of problem, book a call at Numeratus.us and you'll speak to me and we'll get you on the right path forward.